What's up, everybody? Welcome to the channel. It's your boy, World of Wrestling, here today to discuss about UFC Fight Night, Cannonier versus Bahio, UFC Best Bets. Boxing. There's really nothing to talk about with boxing this weekend. Boxing's is off this week, so there's nothing really going on with that. But I do have 3 UFC bets for this weekend that I'm interested in. Now, granted, the picks that I made, you guys probably won't be interested in, except for Bayo, who's a minus, I believe, currently right now on Hard Rock Bet. Let me go to that. Give me 1 second, guys. Let me see here if that's available. Yeah, there we go. All right. So in the main event, Jared Cannonier and Bahario, Balaho, whatever way you pronounce his name, he's a minus 260. So he's not bad to pick as an individual bet. Now, the other guys I got, the other two is whatchamacallit. Come on, where is he? Let's see. Oh yeah, Marilyn Morales. He's a minus 900 right now. I managed to get him at a minus 600, which ain't much at all. Personally, let me see if there's any other options here to go with. Fight going the distance. They're saying yes, a minus 145, which isn't bad. I probably go away from that because what if it goes all the way to the 3rd round? They're saying if it goes to the 3rd round, you're going to get a minus 180. That's not bad. That's actually very good odds. And I would give enough respect to Neil Magny that he could last all the way to the very end. They're saying Morales is probably going to win this more than likely based on the method of winning is by decision. So Morales by decision is a minus 120. So my personal opinion, if you're going to go with anything to lower your odds on this fight, which I think has got a potential of, I think Neil Magny will last all the way to the very end. I would go with the rounds over 2.5. So if it goes to the 3rd round, you win. So I would definitely go with that. And it's only a minus 180. That's great odds. I'm actually particularly interested in possibly playing that and going off of this fight and just going to the the rounds, but I'm just going to stick with my money line, stick my original bet, and that's it. Nothing too crazy. The other fight that I am interested in is Zach Reese. Zach Reese recently had a fight where he ended up knocking his opponent out as an underdog, and I actually played that fight. I bet on that fight that he was in because he was known around the MMA community as a major, well, not a major player, but he was good at what he was doing in his debut fight against Cody Brunget or Cody. I forgot his name. But yeah, he was doing some jujitsu from the ground, and his opponent picked him up, slammed him, and knocked him unconscious, and that's how he actually lost. That I don't see happening. I think Zach Reese is going to remain in the stand-up game. It worked out for him in the last fight that he had. He knocked his opponent out. He is currently facing an opponent by the name of Jose Medina. Jose Medina's 11-3. Let me go over to Tapology, just kind of get a general idea of this. Oh yeah, and he's a minus 600. So he's very hard to bet on. I mean, you can bet on him, but you're not going to get a whole lot back. You have to put more money in to be able to guarantee anything back with what you want. So, yeah. Total rounds, they're predicting it's going to be under 1 round. It's going to be less than 2 rounds. So the fight's going to end in the first round. I don't know about that. I actually would go with the over on this one. I think Jose Medina could make it into the second round. And if he does, you win with a plus 125. That I would roll with as well. I'm very possibly interested in switching my bets here, but I've done that in the past. This past weekend, I actually was on the channel of 3D Boxing with Gary. Great guy, by the way. You should check out his channel. I'll upload a link. Well, not upload, but I'll put a link in the description for you guys to click on if you guys are interested in boxing. He also allows guests on his show once a week on, I believe, Thursdays to do UFC bets along with the boxing, since boxing doesn't always have the greatest odds. So in boxing, you generally have to parlay it to be able to get better odds and whatnot. So I actually went on the show and I gave 3 of my picks on there, and it was very helpful. I got Steve Irsay wrong. The other 2 that I put in my my individual bets, I actually won. Unfortunately, with those winnings, I got greedy. I went to the main event, and I'm like, oh, shit, I want to get to where I wanted to be. I lost that freaking bet with Steve Irsay. Let's put it all on somebody. My original pick was Duplessis. And I was like, okay, let's throw money on Drew Duplessis. And I'm like, nah, let's hold off. Let's see what happens in a live fight. And then bet it live and see what happens. Israel Adesanya was tagging him. But don't get me wrong, Duplessis was doing his part in the fight to stay in it, but he was losing. I actually had him losing 2-1. I think Adesanya had it the first and second round. I think in the third round, Duplessis did well enough for me to say he won the third round. And in the fourth round, he stunned Adesanya, which is ironic. I bet on fucking Adesanya and lost. Right after I made the bet, he lost. I'm like, oh my God. And I lost every freaking bit of money I won, including 2 weeks worth of winnings. So I took all my winnings from the last 2 to 3 weeks, to put it all together and threw it in for one bet to get where I wanted to be by the end of the weekend. And I cost myself all of what I had, which fucked me royally. So now I'm starting over from scratch. Real smart move on my part, right, guys? Sure. But yeah, very disappointing weekend, despite the fact I had 2 out of 3 correct. That's sad. Just to say, oh, guess what, guys? I got 2 out of 3 correct, and then I lost all my money because I decided to bet on the fucking main event. That made a lot of sense. It was very stupid on my part. I felt like a fucking ass. But that's what happens when you bet sometimes. You when you're gambling, which is what I ended up doing. I ended up gambling instead of using my head, and that's where I fucked myself. And I learned a huge lesson from that. It's a very foolish lesson, may I add. I think it was something that didn't have to happen, but it is what it is, you know. If you guys were wondering, well, how much did you bet? Or, you know, how much did you throw down? Oh, $291 fucking dollars, which is not exactly easy to get to, especially when you're doing individual bets. It's not, you're doing it once a week. You're doing it on a Saturday. And then within 2 weeks, you managed to pull off $291. I mean, that ain't too bad. And then you throw it all down on a fight that you think you got right. You had the original guy, and then you pick the other guy and then lose. It's so fucking dumb. It's like going in and taking a test, and it's a multiple choice question, and you go with your gut, and you had it right the first time, and you go, you second guess yourself, and you choose the other one and get it wrong. It's just so fucking dumb. Anyway, yeah, Zach Reese and Jose Medina, I would say go with the over for a plus 125. It gives you plus money. I think you'd actually win that. I would give enough respect to Jose Medina that he could last at least past the first round. So that's where I'm going with that. With the rest of the card that I didn't bet on, let me just give you guys my insight on this. Just some of the fights that I'm kind of familiar with or would be interested in betting if I had enough money to do so. Kong Wang and Victoria Leonardo is the opener to the show. They're the first match on the card. And I wouldn't dare touch this fight. But if you're going to go ahead and bet on this, bet on Leonardo for like $10. She's a plus 650 on Hard Rock Bet. So let's say if you threw 10 down, you'd win back $75. That's a hell of a fucking deal. I mean, worst case scenario, you end up losing $10. Okay, big deal. So that's not a big deal. But if you win, you get 75 fucking dollars on those odds. So that's not bad at all. All right. So Kong Wang, I would pick her to win, but she's having a debut fight. So I don't know if she's going to actually win this fight or not. She's 5-0 though. Kind of talented, but I would stay away from that fight altogether unless you're picking the underdog to win. That's the way I would do that. This seems like a new fight. Zagematas Ramansky versus Nathan Fletcher. Huh. I don't believe I came across this one yet. On Tapology, they got Fletcher beating Ramansky 65% over 35%. That's the votes. I don't know who the hell would win this fight, so personally, I'd stay away from this. This is a UFC debut for Nathan Fletcher. He was in Cage Warriors. He was 8-1. That's actually a good promotion. It's UK's top MMA promotion in the world. And then the other guy is actually making his UFC debut, Ramansky. I have no idea either one of these two, so I'm not going to give you any, actual bet on that or recommend to bet on anything. Josanne Nunez versus Calavante. Jacqueline Calacanti. I would say Jacqueline should be the person you'd want to pick. She's 26 years old, number one. Her opponent, Nunez, is 30. She's 6-1. Let me see what her record is in the UFC so far. She's 1-0, so she did make a debut recently and was successful. She also has a height and reach advantage. She's 5'8". Nunez is 5'2", and has a 70-inch reach, and Nunez has a 67-inch reach. So you gotta go with Jacqueline Calavante on paper. That's the way I would do this. And she's actually a reasonable money line bet that you can go with. Let me see here. Yeah, Calavante is actually minus 225, while Nunez is a plus 170. So I'd say Calavante would be the person I would actually choose in this fight. So yeah, I go with that. Next up, we have James Latompe, I believe is how you pronounce his name. James Latompe versus Vashalav Borshov. I actually bet on this dude once, and I was sadly disappointed. His record in the last fight was 7-3-1, and in this fight, he's 7-4-1. His opponent, James Latompe, is actually 14-3. He did lose in his debut, which usually happens in most cases, unless they're going against a shit opponent. And I'd say I would pick James Latompe, who I actually did pick in this fight. Give me 1 second here. Oops. Let's see, I'm not logged into Tapology. Huh, interesting. All right, give me 1 second, guys. All right, so James Latompe is actually a plus 175, and Bashishev is actually minus 230. So yeah, I would take James in this situation. He's an underdog. I mean, I'm not too familiar with all these fighters, so I'm not a super expert on this shit or anything. But based on records, based on what other people that are very familiar with this and have more knowledge about it than I do, I would have to say that James Latompe is actually a fair choice to go with in this situation. All right, so let me see here. Yeah, I got Latompe as my pick. All right, so next up, we've already talked about Zacharias and Jose Medina. Apparently, Danny Silva is out with some sort of injury. Yeah, he withdrew from the fight, actually. And he's Dennis Bazooka is going up against Francis Marshall. I have no idea what these two guys are, but Francis Marshall is not exactly what I would call a winner. He lost a split decision to William Gomez, and he got knocked out by Isaac Dugorin, who's actually a young prospect. I'd say Dennis Bazooka is actually a better choice to choose from out of these two. Let me see what Francis Marshall's record is in the UFC currently. He's 1-2. Let's see what Dennis is in the UFC here. He's 1-2 as well. So both of these guys are coming off of 1-2 records right out of the gate. So one of these guys, I think, may end up being, kicked out of the UFC if they suffer another loss, I would imagine. So yeah, I think I'm gonna still go with Dennis Bazooka in that situation. Next up we had Edmund Shabazian versus Gerald Meerschaert. Gerald Meerschaert, he's a veteran. I mean, he's been around for quite a while. He's 36 years old. He's going up against a guy who's 26. This is a very bettable fight. I mean, I concern myself if Shabazian cannot take care of Meerschaert's grappling, because I have heard that Meerschaert is actually good at grappling. So that's a bit of a concern. So if Shabazian can't defend the grappling skills of Meerschaert and he manages to get him to the ground, submit him or whatever, that's a problem. And Shabazian is not exactly what I would call a huge winner either. I mean, he's lost 3 fights out of 5. He's 6-4 in the UFC itself. Meerschaert, let me see what his record is in the UFC. He's 11-9. So both of these guys are kind of like hit and miss. Sometimes they'll win, sometimes they lose. I mean, it is what it is, I guess. But yeah, I'd lean towards Shabazian because he's got knockout power ability and he's a lot younger. So I think he has the advantage there. They added another fight to this card. Kian Ofili versus Marion Santos. I have no fucking idea who these guys are and what they're capable of, so I have nothing to say on this fight at all. I'll just enjoy the fight, I guess. Robert Valentin versus Ryan Loder. Ryan Loder is mostly a wrestler, while Valentin is a knockout artist. If Valentin can defend the takedowns, I think Valentin's got a shot at winning the fight. So I'm going to go with Valentin based on knockout ability. Ryan Loder has been known to not be a very good stand-up fighter. That's why he takes most of his fights to the ground. And that's why I would say that Robert Valentin's a better choice. Angela Hill versus Tabatha. I can't even talk. Tabathia Ricci. I'm actually taking Tabathia Ricci. And the reason why is I'm not saying Angela Hill ain't got a shot in hell to win this fight. She sure as hell does. But Tabitha Ricci does have a good stamina. I've watched her fight a few times. She's also 29 years old, while Angela Hill's 39. So that might play a huge factor. I mean, Angela Hill does have a reach and height advantage over her, but not by much, only like 2-3 inches of each, both height and reach. So, I mean, it's not a huge disadvantage, but I mean, it could put her at a somewhat of a disadvantage. Richie's a wrestler and also a grappler. So, personally, I think Richie's got a good shot at winning. 57% on Tapology's got Richie over Hill. So I think that she's got a good shot at winning this fight as well. So yeah, I'll go with Tabitha Ricci. And she's very good to bet on. On the other side with Angela Hill, she's also a good bet too. She's plus money, I believe, or slight or near even. Let me just take a quick look here. But yeah, I personally think that Tabitha Ricci would be the bet I would go with if I was betting on her. But I mean, you don't have to bet on it. I wouldn't recommend doing it because it is kind of a topsy-turvy type of matchup. It could go either way. And I got to give enough respect to Angela Hill that she could pull off a victory. This fight definitely is going to decision. So if you wanted to do the rounds, let's see what total rounds. It's minus 525. Holy shit. So your odds of betting on the rounds is bad. And to decision, it's a minus 400. Wow. Jeez. So yeah, you're probably better off betting on one of the winners. Angela Hill's a minus 110 on Hard Rock, and Richie is minus 120. So damn. But yeah. And then of course I already mentioned Kale Barajo. I'm going with over Jared Cannonier. He's a minus 260. Cannonier is a plus 185. Going to the distance, they're saying it's a no. They're leaning more towards no at a minus 145. Yes, it would be plus 125. If you wanted to go the rounds, it's four. You would have to go 5 rounds. I would say this fight might go under 5 rounds. I'd say it only lasts up to possibly the 4th round or maybe less than that. So, I don't know. I think that I think you're better off just betting on the winner, and I'm going with Barajo to win the fight. That's the way I feel about that. And that's pretty much it, guys. So that's the entire card. I know that I'm very terrible at pronouncing names. so don't bust my balls. But if you wanted to, if you so happen to be watching this not live, as I see there's no one here for this live stream, but it makes pretty much editing a whole lot easier. If you guys want to go ahead, use Tapology. That's what I use to go through the entire card with you guys. And you want to take a look at that and make your own decisions on who you think you should bet on, by all means, go ahead. But at this time, guys, that's all I have to say. So I thank you very much for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed to the channel. Leave a comment down below. I'll definitely get back to you on that. Thank you guys very much for watching, and have a great night, guys. Bye.